Thank you for joining us today. I got a special guest. We are going to be chatting with Will T. Now, Will T is going to be one of the speakers of the Web3 Summit, Women in Web3 down in Miami, of November 30th through December 1st. So if you are in the area, make sure you check it out. But Will, what is going on today, man? How are you?
Hey, how's it going? Thanks for having me on. I appreciate this focus that you have.
Absolutely, man. I figure getting in touch with some of the speakers that we're going to get to see face to face before time, and kind of developing that relationship and having a conversation about what you're doing in the space, and why it's important to you, and why you're ultimately going to be speaking down in Miami, and really just have a good time chatting, man. That's I'm really conversational. We got a chance to chat before we hit record here, and I tell you what, man, definitely easy guy to talk to.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that, Jay. And it's really cool, the empowering opportunity we have right here now, where we can come together in a format such as this, or in Twitter Spaces, and get to know each other relationshiply, right? But then to be able to take that and extend that into a real world event like Web3 Summits. I myself this year have attended 5 different NFT conferences, and I know the people that I've connected to in a virtual environment. It's made those relationships much more enriching, empowering, and long-lasting, to be perfectly honest. So yeah, it's a really powerful way to enhance and foster those relationships.
Oh, absolutely. And you said Twitter Spaces, and I know we could probably spend a lot of time talking about Twitter Spaces today, and we may, you never know. But it is, like you said, it's such a big catalyst for where we are in the space, and how it provides access to really anyone at any time. I mean, you do a ton of Twitter Spaces. I host a ton of Twitter Spaces. I'm in them all the time. You could be educational, you could be degen, you can be a combo in between. And I think that's kind of what your focus is that you guys like to be educational, but you have a lot of fun, and that's edutainment right there, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, over the last 10 months that I've been hosting Twitter Spaces, I've really seen a lot of growth for myself professionally, but also for the brand that I'm cultivating and curating for Twitter Spaces, right? That's specifically developed for the Twitter Spaces environment. And so, there's been a lot of, I would say, in the maturation process, there's been a lot of adjustments to the focus. So right now, the focus is on the main brand, which is Kingfisher's Corner. And essentially, we sit at the intersection of education and entertainment. So a lot of people like to term that as edutainment.
Mm-hmm.
And what I've done with it is we have a very specific theme week. We run Twitter Spaces Monday through Friday, and it's all about learning and education, but having fun at the same time. So what inspired me to create the different themes, so I just went back in my brain to my childhood, and what really resonated with me that were positive experiences from the learning process, right? Mm-hmm. So on Monday, because we know that we're on the leading edge of onboarding people into this space every single day. That's our primary objective. And so with that, safety and security is at the forefront, and should be at the forefront of everyone's mind. So Monday is our safety day. Tuesday is our primary learning day. We have a current web series going on that of how to take a project from concept to product. And then, Wednesday, so today, here in a little bit, we tap into our creative side. So whatever speaks to us creatively, whether it's art or music or graphic design or film or whatever, right? And then on Thursday, we have story day. So everybody has a story, right? Storytelling is a lost art form that I think is underemphasized and should bring more awareness to in this space of Web3, because that's really how we get to know each other. And then Friday is our fun Friday, kind of like a field day or fun and games. Where we're just going to relax, decompress, de-stress, and get ready for the weekend, put our minds in a good space.
Awesome. I love the blend of all the different things that you do throughout the week. Did you when you first started? Now this is, a lot of creators, a lot of people that get into content creation. I think there's the barrier to entry is where to start, right? Or how to get started. And sometimes there's a thing we call analysis paralysis, where, if you don't have this right, so you don't want to start this until next week. When you jumped in, did you just let's go 5 days a week, or did you ease into it gradually?
Well, no, yeah, that's a good point. So I did kind of ease into it gradually. So when I first started hosting Twitter Spaces within the main Web3 community that I'm attached to, which is the Social Bees DAO, I noticed because we are a global community, but there were some, and another predominant part of our community is the Spanish speaking side of it. So I noticed and identified real quickly there was a communication gap and the way the information, because we met every day on a nightly Zoom call, right, as a community for a very long time. And so there was, just by the questions that were being raised by the Spanish speaking side of the community, I noticed there was a gap in the way the information was basically filtered down to that side of the community. So when I first started Twitter Spaces, I did it with the focus to bridge that gap. It was 3 days a week initially. It was our essentially our community call where the Spanish speaking community can come up and ask a more senior member of the community any questions they had about, you know, what direction we were going, what were NFTs, what should they be doing in the Discord to get ready for whitelist activities and things of that nature. So that's where I first started. And then after that, I started creating my own brand. The original focus of Kingfisher's Corner was to highlight the people behind the projects and get to know them on a personal level. And then it's just kind of evolved into what it is today.
Dude, that's very cool. I do like that. And Web3 is ever changing, right? So I feel like, you know, being that you have focused on the education side of it, and it is such an early part of this entire ecosystem. You know, we're always learning. We're all learning every single day, and I think that's, you know, one of the coolest things about this really this entire industry is the ability that you get a chance to be in it. And I'm just like you, man. I'm in it every single day, but I'm still learning something, you know, every single day.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, there's always something to learn every day, right? And just because you may have a particular focus or you may have a particular agenda that you want fulfilled for yourself personally, you know, by exploring out, you know, I speak about this on a regular basis. This is the age of discovery and exploration in Web3. And so the people that embrace that mentality, you're always going to find something new to learn.
Yeah, that's so true. So true. So, do you know what you're going to be talking about in Miami yet?
I don't know yet. They haven't assigned any panel discussions or released the full agenda yet. I know that the organizers are working on that very diligently in the
Mhm.
background of getting all that pulled together. Now, I can tell you about topics that I've spoken about at other conferences where I've been privileged to be and honored to be a speaker there as well, if you'd
Yep.
like.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's great. I think, you know,
Okay.
anything that you can do that one that gets people to know more about you and what you like to speak about, what you're passionate about, and what you're knowledgeable about, I think absolutely is beneficial.
Yeah, so recently in June, I was at an NFT conference in Austin, Texas, and I was on a panel of social impact for Web3. And primarily the focus of that panel discussion was, you know, how do we bring about the most amount of impact on a social level, um, you know, with the emphasis on Web3 to where we can distill and start I guess, diluting the stigmas that society has put on us about how we're categorized or how we're labeled by societal standard, right?
Mhm.
I'm very blessed and fortunate to have grown up in a household that was free of any societal biases. So there was no gender bias, there was no race bias, there was no orientation bias, there was, you know, none of those biases existed in my household. So for me, it's natural to be involved in those conversations and I have an over emphasizing focus. And what I am truly passionate about is equality for everyone who is living on this planet. I mean, you know, this is our planet to share. We should share in harmony with each other and support each other, amplify each other, and really just make the world a better place. I mean, being a father of four myself with grown adult children, that was always my focus as a parent was to make my kids' lives better than the way I had it and to leave the world in a better place than where I found it.
That's amazing. And you know, when you talk about equality, you know, having a big focus on what's going on in the metaverse and how that's getting built out, you know, to me, I think, this world, this in real life world that we're living in, obviously there's there is all of that going on, but I don't think that there will be in the metaverse, which is really cool, right? Because it doesn't matter what you look like. It doesn't matter, if you, have a disability. It doesn't matter what if you have a social anxiety. Like you get the opportunity now to be on the same level as absolutely anyone else, and your credit is that you get is your contribution. You know what I mean? And so as long as you're there and you're contributing and you're being a valued member, like you're not going to be. I would hope that you're not going to be uh, criticized or wrongfully so.
Right. And then the other thing that you bring up about that, what's so refreshing and encouraging about the metaverse and the metaverse development, because I kind of keep my finger on that pulse a little bit too, is the ability to choose, right?
Mhm.
So with the advent of avatars and or NFT that maybe you identify with or maybe that resonate with you, you have the choice to create your own new unique identity of how you want others in the metaverse to perceive you, right? Good or bad, right?
No.
So it's all about choice, and I believe that uh, the more opportunities where we can create choices for us
Mhm.
as human beings, um, it's not only just a wonderful and beautiful thing, but it's also like freedom, right?
Yeah.
It's like true freedom to be able to have that power of choice.
Absolutely. I love that. So speaking of power of choice, freedom, equality, Web3 Summit, Women of Web3, that's the big focus. Obviously celebrating, not only women in Web3, but just women and them giving the ability and opportunity to be on, again, it doesn't matter who you are, what you look like, the same level. So it's not like, this Web2 society, which even crypto is predominantly male. We all know that, but I'm a big advocate. I'm a recent father. My daughter just turned 1 year old just a few weeks ago. I'm a husband. I love my wife, and so to me, for my family, like I get a chance to be a champion for them. I want my daughter to grow up in blockchain. I want her to know, like she's already been to 10 crypto conferences and NFT conferences, like in just a year of her life. She traveled with me the entire last year going to these things, and yeah, she was a baby and she'll never remember it, but I've got all the pictures and I'm going to keep doing that throughout her life. And so she will be raised in this ecosystem. So I want her to understand. And so like when it's coming up for women's rights and equality and saying let's hire more CEOs, let's put more women in position of power within this Web3 ecosystem, I am absolutely all for that. 100%.
Yeah,
That
I'm,
excites
I'm,
me.
I'm an ally and an advocate for that as well. And along with, people who have been, at least by societal standards, they've been pushed down,
Mhm.
maybe pushed aside. I'm a big advocate and ally for that too. So that's why I support most initiatives that I resonate with from a diversity, equity, inclusion, and from a diversity, equity, inclusion, belonging, accessibility, and allyship focus. So that's really, I was at the NFT AtlantaCon in May, and that was really the focus of that conference was the support of diversity, equity, inclusion, and how can we all get along in a harmonious balance
Mhm.
within this world going forward. And at the end of the day, I mean, we were created with that perspective, and somehow, some way, through time, we kind of lost that focus. So it's really good to see this re um, reorganizing our focus back to that original beginnings of humanity.
Nice. Now, the one that you went to in Atlanta, I actually live just north of Atlanta. And so I believe in May, I went to the one, it was at, did it have like a pool with like, was
Yeah,
it?
yeah, it did.
Okay.
It was at the nightclub. It was at the
Yes.
nightclub.
The
Yep.
nightclub.
Yep, that
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
one.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
I checked that out. Yeah, that was
Okay.
cool, man. There was definitely some. I got a chance to meet some pretty cool people and chat with some interesting people about some of the things that they were doing. Are you located in this region here, or did you travel in for
So
it?
I'm located just outside of Denver, Colorado, in a
Okay.
suburb called Aurora.
Yep.
But my daughter lives in Cartersville,
Oh,
Georgia.
okay.
And then there's a strong part of my Social Bees community that also lives in that area too. So it's good to connect with them. We did take one night to go out and have like a celebratory dinner. Um, you know, it was good to spend some time with my daughter, who I hadn't seen in a year, and her fiance. And yeah, it was just a really good time. And I'm familiar with Atlanta because I used to live in Jacksonville, Florida for 5 years. That's the only time that I haven't lived in Colorado as a native. And so for me, you know, I was really familiar with the area. So it was really good to go back and see the changes, you know, that had happened since the last time I'd been to Atlanta. So it was good.
Yeah. So it's for me, I'm still, you know, kind of fresh here. I've now been here for a little bit over a year and some change. I spent the last 10 years before that in Austin, Texas. And that's, for me, that was a huge change, going from Austin, Texas to the suburbs of Atlanta. But I love it, man. You know, the Web3 community here, it's not as strong as you would say like in Miami or Los Angeles, but I know it is growing. You know, the blockchain community is growing, and so it's really exciting to see that happening. Now, Colorado, you guys just had Rare Bloom out there for the Cardano thing. Did you happen to attend that or no?
Yeah, I didn't. Yeah, I'm not really that like up to speed with what's going on in the Cardano community. And at one time I was a Cardano maxi, but you know, I kind of transitioned out of that. You know,
Crypto's favorite stablecoin.
yeah, just naturally, right? Although Charles Hoskinson, you know, he is located here in my backyard of Broomfield, Colorado. So I do keep up time to time what he's doing with that project. But yeah, I mean, I heard about it. The first conference I went to this year, actually, which was in my backyard, was ETH Denver, back in late January, early February. So that was really good to have that experience as my first conference, because you know, unbeknownst to me, the way they marketed it, it just looked like a normal conference, but it was a developer conference. And then, you know, I got to know some people, but I did meet some people there who I still have relationships with in Web3, who I admire and respect. And, you know, just emphasizing the value of those real world meetings when you meet people in this space.
Yeah, that to me is one of the coolest things about being in this industry, being in this being a content creator too, because you know I get to have a chance, you know, to chat with people like you. Now, you know, maybe we have bumped into each other at a conference before, and you know, I would assume, you know, we're in the same circles, and you know, have been on a Twitter space several times together. But you know, here we are finally meeting face to face over a Zoom. I like to call this my little metaverse. But you know, in just a few weeks here, we'll actually get to shake hands in real life. Which to me, watching the Web3 community come together and at real life events is something magic, because there's, you know, you've already got this connection where you feel like, you know, you already know somebody. Like, what's your favorite part of the, you know, the Web3 meeting, the in real life?
My favorite part of meeting in real life is just, you know, in here or in Twitter spaces, we represent ourselves uniquely, right? Whether it be a profile picture from an NFT project that we minted out and that we're attached to and we're heavily involved in, or whether it's our real life photo or whatever. It just was, especially when I went to Arizona in February at an NFT conference there, you know, to me, it was like the experience of, you're not what I imagined you to look like, right? So that in and of itself is kind of refreshing. But then when you get that initial handshake or you get that initial hug, it just, I mean, just overwhelmed with emotions, especially with people that you've been connected to for some time as well.
Yeah, that's
so you get that flood of emotions, and then you're like, oh man, this is real.
Yeah, there's been a few times where, you know, you might have known somebody on the internet, you know, you know their PFP for quite some time, and then you finally see them, you know, so you've heard their voice, but you've never seen their picture. Maybe they're, you know, anonymous, or they just don't dox their face, you know, with their PFP, whatever. And then you finally see them, and you're like, wow, that's not what I thought you looked like.
I know. It's interesting how the human brain works like that. I had those experiences back in the day when I was I used to be a full-time purchasing agent for a local video game company. And so, you know, being in that role, I would get invited to E3, which is basically the big video game conference every year, right? And at that time, they weren't alternating between Vegas and LA. They were just solely in LA. So when I went to go meet, you know, the sales teams, the sales reps that I was buying product from, meeting them for the first time after hearing their voices and being on the phone with them, for months on end. It really was that type of experience as well, right? Like, oh, you're nothing like I imagined what you look like, but it's cool that you're not, right? It's cool in the same respect that you're not. So
Yeah, I definitely have a lot of fun with that. Now, you said, in you were just talking about your, previous life. What, obviously, so are you full-time Web3?
how I got into crypto in March of 2020 was essentially I took a leap of faith. I retired from corporate America, 26 years as a business strategist, working in various different industries from retail to telecom to healthcare to solar. Most recently, I started my own company on the advice of my mentor and father figure. If you see, let me move out of the way real quick, just give them a quick plug, Catalyst Capital Holdings Incorporated. He's one of the founders of that company. So I started a business consulting company and took them on as a client. Since then, I've been elevated to their chief marketing officer, just making sure that the messaging is displayed correctly in all their marketing efforts of what they're doing and what they're building. It's really cool because I did some business dev for them as well, so business development in building relationships and vetting out integrations for the product suite that they're going to be releasing later this year or early next year. They've been hard at it for 3 years now, and it's really been a culmination of something that's going to be disruptive to the payment solutioning space that has a financial education component to it as well. So that's the blend mix of my responsibilities to Catalyst Capital Holdings, but then also crafting a professional career inside of Web3 as a Web3 educator. So I would say right now it is probably 50-50 mix between my varied responsibilities of that. But I will say this, once that product does come to market of what's under construction, I'll be full-time Web3 because it's essentially a bridge between traditional financial applications and decentralized financial applications.
Oh, that's exciting.
Yeah.
I mean, DeFi summer last year was, that brought a lot of attention into, the blockchain ecosystem, right? And I feel like it's going to kind of keep happening that way in waves, in cycles as new things develop, right? It was Bitcoin, and then it was the ICO boom, and then it was DeFi summer, and then it became NFTs. The next thing obviously is likely lined up to be the metaverse, but I think we're still many, many years away from that happening. But it is just fun to be a part of, like, watching this evolutionary tech within our own little bubble here, because we still don't have all the eyes, right? We still don't have all the attention that we're looking for, but it'll happen, like, in the next wave up.
Oh yeah, it'll come. And you see some major companies really learning about the space, educating themselves about the space, and then figuring out how they're going to participate and stay relevant going forward. Case in point is the recent deployment of Starbucks and their new rewards program, which basically, technically, it uses NFTs as a form of rewards, which to me is a very intriguing use case for NFTs, right? So you have that. You have rumors of other entities coming into the space, but they haven't really arrived yet. And I believe a lot of them are just trying to figure out strategies, because they, like, say, if they're your competitor and they try to make a splash in the space and it wasn't successful, you want to learn from those lessons so that you don't make the same mistakes in business, right? But it's very reminiscent of back when Kodak had the opportunity to stay relevant in digital photography, and they didn't really take advantage of that opportunity. And then, I mean, look where they're at today, right? Yeah. So there's a lot of jockeying for position, I would say, of major brands, major companies figuring out how they're going to play a role in this new environment and ecosystem.
Do you think one of the things that's holding us back is the regulatory clarity? Because like, now you're seeing something where the SEC is probably going to go after Yuga for deeming the Bored Ape drop and ApeCoin a security. I mean, they're going to try, and who knows how that's all going to play out.
Right.
But do you think, like, some of these major companies are going to be like, wait a second, like, yeah, no, we're not going to drop an NFT yet because we're not going to get slapped with a couple $1 million fine because, you know, they've got the capacity to sell millions of NFTs, you know, based on their customer base with, you know, what kind of education, what kind of war chest, you know, like Coca-Cola would have to develop an NFT with some education behind it to get their people into it. You know, they just probably don't want to get in trouble with the SEC, just like a lot of other companies at this point, because there's no regulatory clarity.
Yeah, so based on the conversations that I have, and I spend, you know, a fair amount of my time, fair amount of my day when I'm not working on marketing strategies for Catalyst Capital in Twitter Spaces, right?
Mhm.
And so in the circles I run in, the spaces that resonate with me, I think it's a combination of a few things. So regulatory clarity is one of the main topics that I hear a lot, as far as, you know, what's keeping people away from the space right now. Um, you know, look, it's a very hard job that we have right now of being pioneers of this technology and of this ecosystem, because in one breath, on one side of the fence, we're trying to tear down and dilute all these societal stigmas that have been perpetuated for decades upon decades, generations upon generations, right? But
Mhm.
then when you look at the other side of the coin, we also have this own natural stigma that's developed about the space and how unsecure it is and how volatile it is and how you really can't trust it, right? So we really have a very hard task to kind of combat it on two different fronts. So the regulatory clarity, in my mind, is one of the aspects that's keeping people away from the space right now. The other aspect that I hear on a regular basis, and this is why forefront of my focus is on onboarding people into this space, is the complexity about the barriers of entry to get into the space, right? That's why I love the product suite that we're developing at Catalyst Capital Holdings Incorporated, because it's going to remove a lot of those complexities for the everyday person so that they can, you know, if they want to participate, they can freely navigate into this space very simply and easily, and have a very robust financial education program to back them up and teach them along the way how to create a better financial outlook for them and their families.
Love it. I love
Yeah.
it. Any will before we wrap up, any last thoughts on you know Web3, women in Web3? You know, before, because you know we've got just a few short weeks now until the conference, but
Mhm.
that doesn't mean that this video won't get watched again. So any kind of evergreen final thoughts you got?
Yeah, so I just want to say one thing to highlight and emphasize the work that BOK Productions and their team has done in as far as the organization and the planning of this event. They are building a community of speakers first and foremost before they even host their first event, which to me is completely the opposite of how everyone else has been doing it, which is good. It's refreshing, it's innovative. It's really building this very robust this very robust community of people that will continue on the journey with them as they move forward. And it may not just be oh, I popped in over here at this NFT conference, but then, maybe I didn't have a good taste left in my mouth, so I'm never going to come back. So they're really cultivating that type of environment and ecosystem. And I've always had a very high level of engagement ever since I applied to be a speaker with this event, was confirmed as a speaker, and then going on from there. So the team behind the scenes is very heavily engaged and invested in the success of this conference. I believe in my mind it's going to be a very successful conference, and it will be a model for which other conference organizers and promoters and event organizers can kind of blueprint from going forward of what is the overall emphasis look like, what do the conversations look like, how have the conversations changed through time, and maybe what do we need to be thinking about going forward. So yeah, I'm blessed and honored to be a part of it. I'm very excited to be down in Miami. I've never been before. I've heard the culture down there, especially for Web3, is absolutely amazing and supportive of what we're doing here. So yeah, there will be a lot of benefits to come out of this conference for a lot of people that attend and or participate.
Absolutely, yeah. Miami is it is a fun place, and then when you put a whole bunch of Web3 people in there, it makes it even that much better. Will, if people want to find you, where can they do so?
Yeah, so primarily you can find me on Twitter. My Twitter handle is at Will T SBU DAO. So that's Social Bees University DAO is what SBU stands for. So that's where they can find me on Twitter. I also have a newly formed, I'm not sure, Jay Chains, if you're familiar with this or not, but beacons.ai, they really give creators a very simple way to create a mobile website. So you can also find me on that platform as well at willt.rocks. I did not pick it, they picked it for me. But willt.rocks, and that'll connect you with all my socials, connect you with my community on that platform as well. And then, you know, I have a media kit on there too. So if anybody wants to connect for, you know, to find out how they can engage me in hosting Twitter Spaces or getting involved with their communities as well, I'll be more than happy to have those conversations.
Absolutely, man. Well, you certainly got my follow. Will, I definitely look forward to meeting you in real life. This has been a great conversation. Thank you. Now I know a little bit about you that will help
Thank
me
you.
when I introduce you on stage. So, man, thank you for joining me. Definitely had a good time chatting with you, and I will see you just in a few weeks, man.
Yeah, I'll see you in a few weeks. Looking forward to the opportunity. Thank you for the opportunity here as well. Thank you for the platform to get the message out and create content in a unique way that I'm not, you know, used to on a daily basis. But like you said, it's going to have lasting power. It's going to have staying power. And years from now, people are going to come back. They're going to probably watch this and they'll learn something from it. So,
Well, that's all we can hope for, is just to provide some value. So, all right, guys, we'll see you next time for another Women of Web3 Spotlight interview for the conference.